Hey guys, it's Paul with bikeskins.com, leading supplier of custom wraps for motorcycles and helmets. Back with another video. Today I'm going to be showing you how to finish up a wrap area on the front of, I believe this is a 99 GSXR. And so what I've done is I basically held up the material into position, removing only half of the backing. And once that's in place, you can see that's already tacked up on the left hand side where that it looks like a crease is. So once that's tacked up, now the material is being held in the position so I can remove the other half. So when you're installing this material, you definitely want to use techniques like that, because when it's being put into position and all of the backing is off, you can really get into a mess. It'll start wrinkling and sticking to itself and just tacking up, and it just makes it way easier to manage if you've got certain areas tacked up before going on to work with the big areas. So now what I'm doing is I'm starting to realize that I forgot a step, and basically what I need to do is put down this finishing tape. This is a product not really used quite as much in the industry anymore because of the invention of the 3M knifeless finishing tape. But this finishing tape acts as a backing when you're creating an overlap seam. It acts as a backing for you to cut the top layer of material without cutting into the bottom, because if you cut through the bottom, basically as the material heats and shrinks or expands, it can cause the material to kind of separate there, and you definitely want to make sure that the overlap is genuinely overlapping the material underneath. So now all I'm doing is working out a few of the edge wrinkles. So anytime you're installing wrap material over compound radiuses, so it's not installing a wrap on like a car door or a hood of a truck or something like that. This has multiple curves to it. When you start installing a wrap material on something like that, you're going to have wrinkles, like excess material is going to gather in certain areas. And so you're never really going to get rid of all of those unless you do a lot of stretching, and sometimes you don't want to do that because it can reduce the adhesive or the density of the adhesive on the back, and it can also sometimes stretch the pigment a little bit too much. So what you're doing is you're constantly managing where those wrinkles are. So I'm kind of working my way left to right across the bike, and I'm trying to make all the wrinkles be more so, or the extra material be more so in where the headlight cutout is going to be, because it's going to be cut out and removed anyway. And then sometimes you can't do that. Sometimes you have to heat up the material and cause it to shrink a little bit in some areas, and heat it up to expand in some areas to get rid of the wrinkles. So there's just a couple different techniques to do that, but in this video I'm kind of showing the technique where you manage where the wrinkles go. So now what I'm doing is, because the material's tacked up a few inches to the right of where the center of that headlight cutout is, but I still have some wrinkles around the border of the headlight cutout, what I'm doing is I'm reaching underneath with my right hand, and I'm making sure and pull that material away to kind of reduce the wrinkles in that way, because you can't really put two hands on it there. You just want to make sure that your hands are clean, so I use rubbing alcohol often, and you may want to make sure you're working in an air-conditioned space, so that otherwise your hands will sweat just a really small amount and you won't notice it, and you kind of release oils on your skin. And if that gets on the adhesive backing, then it doesn't stick as well to the surface of your body work. So if I'm working on something like this, it's often I'll clean my hands before I start each individual piece. And so now I'm getting ready to cut out where the air vent is. So on some bikes you may wrap down in there with a separate piece of material. On this bike it's been painted black down in there, so all I have to do is press it in around the edge as close as I can get, and then what I do is I just cut maybe a 1/2 inch away from the edge, maybe a 1/4 inch away from the edge. And there's a technique I use. See how the angle of my X-Acto knife is tilted kind of away from the cut? That helps you cut a lot straighter, kind of like a pinstriper may do with their brush. You know, if they just held the brush perpendicular, like straight up and down against the bodywork somewhere, they would have little squiggles in their lines, but they're able to achieve getting a really straight line by angling their brush away from where they're painting on that pinstripe. And that's what I'm doing here, is I'm just angling it away from the cut. Another thing too is this edge of the light, there's a surface plane that changes there. This edge of the vent, I should say, there's a surface plane that changes there. And so if you do a seam or a cut that's away from a surface change like that, it's just not as obvious. It kind of looks more finished, I guess you could say. So as I heat this up and I roll it into where that edge of the cutout is, you'll see what I mean. Like, it just kind of looks more finished. If you did do the cut right at the edge of the cut, it would be more obvious if there were like small errors in the cut. But since this cut is on the inside of how the bodywork turns in at that area, it looks a lot cleaner.